We're now going to hear from Hiroko Sakaguchi.
皆さん、こんにちは。皆さんとお会いできて、今日お話をすることがとても嬉しいです。
Good afternoon, everybody. I am very pleased to be able to speak to you and meet you today.
私の母親も長崎で被爆しました。原爆で広島、長崎で一瞬のうちに亡くなった人は26万人と言われています。
My mother was a Hibakusha in Nagasaki. It is said that between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there were over 240,000 people that vanished into thin air.
それから怪我をしたり行方不明になったりした方もたくさんいらっしゃいました。そしてその時には何ともなかった人が後から髪の毛が抜けたり、それから歯茎から出血したり、体に斑点ができたりして次々と亡くなっていきました。
There were not only many people that were injured and burnt, but later on, then there were also people where their hair was falling out and their teeth were bleeding, their gums were bleeding. But then later on, after all of this had happened, there were also people that began to have spots all over their bodies, and that continued, the injuries continued.
私が小学校に上がる前くらいまでいつも母はベッドで寝ていました。そして食事の世話は父親がいつもしてくれました。
After my father came back and we continued with our lives, we the children, we were finally born. My mother was very weak, she was in bed often, and it was my father that took care of her and took care of us.
私はその時にこれは原爆のせいで亡くなったんだということを感じました。そして私自身が被爆のせいだということを強く意識するようになりました。
I started to realize that we can't blame it on the nuclear bomb alone. And I also realized at that time that I have a responsibility as a second generation Hibakusha.
原爆の威力は爆風、熱線、それから放射能ということを皆さんご存知ですね。でも一番怖いのは放射能です。
As you have been told today, and you might have already learned by now, is the devastating forces of the atomic bomb are the tremendous force of wind, the unbearable heat, but most of all, it's the silent force from the radiation.
その放射能は遺伝子を傷つけ、そして細胞を破壊します。
It's the radiation that demolishes your cells, that works into the genetic level of your bodies.
遺伝子を破壊するということは、その次の世代にも影響を与えるということです。その次の世代にも影響を与えるということです。
To give out, to cause an effect, a genetic level of effect on your body also means that it's going to continue on to the next generation and the generations after that.
その生き残った被爆者から生まれた子供である被爆2世にもその影響はあります。
And hence, the children that are born of the direct Hibakusha, the second generation Hibakusha, there's a tremendous effect on us as well.
被爆2世の中にも甲状腺がんや白血病、それからリンパ腫などで亡くなった人がたくさんいます。私の友達も私のいとこも亡くなりました。
There are many people that were diagnosed with leukemia, with cancer in the lymph nodes. There are many, many different types of illnesses that come out through the different generations thereafter. Even my cousins, and I have relatives that have died from this.
でも多くの科学者が動物や植物を使った実験で次世代やその次の世代まで遺伝子に何らかの影響があるということを実証しています。
And yet there are many, many scientists out there that have conducted experiments with animals and plants and have many, many data that needs to be set out and are saying that yes, the radiation does in fact have an effect on a genetic level.
今年の3月、日本で不幸な自然災害がありました。 そしてたくさんの方が亡くなりました。
As you are well aware, in March of this year, there was an awful natural disaster in Japan.
そして少しずつ町は復興を遂げています。でも復興できないものがありました。それは福島の原子力発電所の事故です。
And slowly but surely, the town of Fukushima is on their way to recovery. But there's one thing that is unable to recover, and that's the nuclear plant in Fukushima.
私も今年の10月に汚染が高かったところに訪問し、伺って話をすることがありました。
I had the opportunity to visit the area in Fukushima in October where the radiation level was the highest.
原子力発電所と原爆のエネルギーを生み出す作用は全く同じです。でもそれを人類は制御することはできません。
The system that creates the nuclear bomb is almost identical, is almost basically the same as the nuclear plants. And yet people are unable to control nuclear power.
放射能というのは除染しようとしても完全に除染はできません。だから家族離れ離れになって生活している人もたくさんいました。
With radiation, it is impossible to completely clear it. And in this way, there are still families that wind up having to live separated from each other.
原子力発電所の燃料であるウランを採掘する現場から発電をし、そして使わなくなった燃料、核廃棄物まであらゆる段階で原子力発電所は放射能を放射します。
You have to understand that with a nuclear plant, the waste has to go somewhere. And on each level of the energy being developed, there is waste being developed. So in some form, this radiation, the waste of the radiation is being drained out and spreading.
事故が起こってからでは取り返しがつかないことを今度の福島の事故では教えられました。
We learned a very valuable lesson this time, is that you cannot wait until after there is an accident.
私たち被爆2世の願いは再び被爆者を作らないということです。核兵器も、それから原発も、そしてウランの劣化ウラン弾も、そういうものに対してあらゆる核に反対をしていきます。
It is the hope of us as a second generation Hibakusha to not create any more Hibakusha, to not destruct any but other people. We are going to continue to be against and talk against nuclear power, nuclear energy, uranium prospecting, anything that has to do with nuclear.
皆さんもぜひこのことを忘れないで、核のない平和な世界を作るように頑張っていきたいと思います。ぜひ私たちと一緒に作りましょう。
And I would like to ask all of you to join us in reaching a world without any more nuclear power, nuclear energy. Let's create a world of peace.
No more 広島、No more 長崎、No more 福島、No more 被爆者、No more war。皆さんありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.